The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Bronx Roots with David Hubler and Michael Preminger. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the two gentlemen are here. David Hubler.
Hello.
Michael Pomeranz. I'm just going to let this go. If you were backstage in my head for like 6 weeks, I've been confusing the name David Preminger.
You are. Keep going.
David Hubler, Michael Preminger, Michael Pomeranz. I am verdregt, as my grandmother in the Bronx would have said. No question, but David Hubler is here and Michael Preminger. This is going to be a show about a number of things. First of all, we're going to talk baseball nicknames down the road. We both had some recollections off air of why it is that we don't see baseball nicknames anymore. The last one Michael mentioned was the Big Hurt, and that was Frank Thomas, Hall of Famer, terrific hitter, incredible. So let's, before that, talk. Michael, as someone who did comedy, I want to just tell you how in awe I am of you. You've had appearances on The Tonight Show, and how few comedians get, of all the comedians out there, all the aspiring comedians, the working comedians, how few percentage-wise got to be on The Tonight Show, and you were one of them. How did that come about? How did you meet the producers, impress Johnny? What was that about?
I was very lucky in that in those days, in the early 70s, they would have auditions sometimes in a room at NBC, and people would audition for the producers. But I never had to do that. And sometimes they would see you like at the Improvisation, which was a club in New York, and some people got on that way. I'm trying to remember. I had a manager at that time who was friends with the producer of The Tonight Show, and he talked to him, and they put me on, which was kind of unusual without really seeing me.
Okay.
I could have come on as a juggler or something. But what was nice is that I did well enough to be asked back.
I guess that's really the sign of making it, right, Mike? I mean, like you said, they didn't really know you well for the first appearance, and you could have been a juggler, but getting called back is really the sign of, Johnny wanted you.
Michael, what year was this?
Approximately 72.
Okay. And how did it, after your appearance, or maybe the second appearance, how did that change your career as it went?
I hate to say it because this will be like deflating. It didn't change my career that much.
Okay.
I could tell you a lie and say I got all kinds of jobs and a sitcom, and I was given an apartment on Central Park South and 3 hookers and 2 actually.
Only 3?
Yeah. But it really didn't change. It changed a lot of other people's careers, and to this day, it's like maybe I wore the wrong shirt or something. But I got some jobs from it. But it didn't. It wasn't a breakout.
Okay.
Career change.
But you opened for a number of acts, didn't you? After that,
I opened. Yes, I did. I opened for a lot. I opened for Jose Feliciano, the Pointer Sisters, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the Temptations, the Four Tops, Vic Damone, Robert Goulet.
Vic Damone just passed away this past
week, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra said of Vic Damone, he has the best pipes going. Kind of.
You know, it's interesting that I read that too, and a number of people I know read the same thing, but they left out the second half of the sentence. You ready for this? It's not earth-shattering.
Except me?
No. They said, Sinatra said that Vic Damone had the best pipes in the business, but no soul.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yes,
Other people who saw him and they said he's a great singer, but a lousy entertainer.
I wouldn't say a lousy entertainer, a non-memorable.
Right.
You don't remember him on stage. I happen to have seen him in Vegas, and you mentioned Toady Fields the other day. We were talking about comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He and Toady Fields gave a very unmemorable performance in Vegas. They just don't stand out. Not that they were bad, but he was the crooner. He had the white hair and he just did it. But like Frank would get on stage, and I've seen him, and you just mesmerized. Sometimes it isn't something you can quantify about an entertainer, but
I think I had a lot of soul, but not a very good singing voice. I left out Neil Sedaka. I opened for him.
Whoa.
That was a memorable night for me. There was a club called The Bottom Line. It's gone now.
In the Village.
And, exactly. And Sedaka was making a comeback with the song Laughter in the Rain, if you remember that.
I remember that song, yeah.
I do remember that song. It was horrible.
So it was horrible, did you say?
Yes, basically.
I liked it.
It was entertaining. It was,
It was entertaining. And anyway, the room was packed, and they were all there everybody was there to see him, obviously. And I'm still very proud of the fact that I got on and I did great. I was able to get the audience, even though not a person was there to see me. That was a very good night.
A very unappreciated job, the opener for superstars. You had a litany of them you opened for. Did you get to know any of them just from working with them? Like the Pointer Sisters interest me because there was a fellow that played on the original Houston Astros. His name was Aaron Pointer, and I had him as a guest. He's a brother of the Pointer Sisters. So, for whatever reason, I like the Pointer Sisters. Did you get to know any of them a little bit?
Not really. The Four Tops were very friendly. They were very, of course, the dressing. I didn't have a dressing room. I had a nail. There was a nail somewhere in the club, and that's where I had to change and hang up my stuff. But the Four Tops, come use our dressing room. The Temptations kind of stayed to themselves. So I don't know why I should have, looking back, tried to make friends, because now when I think about it, I maybe missed an opportunity, especially with Temptations when they changed personnel. Maybe I could have been one of the Temptations.
Absolutely, or at least one of the four tops. And in Israel, it's $3.95. They have $3.95.
Oh, thank you. The $3.95 tops. It was.
They marked it down a little bit, but that's an inside joke.
Well, were you tempted? I mean, to join the Temptations?
Tempted, yeah.
Well,
I think I
you're the tops with us, young man.
Oh, thank you, young man. Wow.
Well, we're all young.
Didn't I tell you the story after? I think I'm pretty sure I told you the story after my first Tonight Show, and I went up to the Bronx, like the next day, and I went with my mother to the fish store. And when I went in, there was a lady, a customer there, and she saw my mother, and she saw me. She said, "Oh, I saw Michael on the Tonight Show last night. It was wonderful." And she turned to the owner of the fish store, who was behind the counter, and she goes, "Sam, did you see Michael?" And he said, "Yeah, he was in the other day, bought halibut." And I realized, well, fame is fleeting.
Famously.
And I told that story on the Tonight Show the next time, and it got a good laugh.
I can imagine.
It was the truth.
Because it was natural and it was real. And
you know what?
That's what.
Can you talk about before you went on? I mean, a lot of people would be interested to know, what's the protocol? You walk in, and where do you go? Does anyone come and greet you? How did that work?
I don't remember if someone greeted you or you sought somebody out. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. The talent coordinator greeted you.
Okay.
A man named Craig Tennis. And they showed you to your dressing room. I still have some of the, you had your name on the dressing room and a card. I still have a few of those. That was, then you knew, you're on.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. And then you spent the rest of the time being very nervous.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it was just nervous, and the talent coordinator was trying to calm you down. I think I had mentioned who I was on with that first time was Maya Lindsay.
Oh, wow.
Muhammad Ali. Teddy Kollek, who was the mayor of Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
And Harry Chapin. And me. And they all said how thrilled they were to be on with me. It was very touching. All those
especially the mayor of Jerusalem, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, they knocked on my door, and they brought me food, candy, and food.
Knishes. They brought, the mayor had knishes
sent over the fact that they were on with me. It was amazing. I had to say, it's all right, fellas. I appreciate it. So
you just didn't want to sign autographs at that time.
Well, Ali wanted my autograph, and I did give it to him. And
were you all in the same green room together? Is that how you sat around waiting?
Oh, there was the same green room. Yeah. We had separate dressing rooms, but one big green room.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And they give you nosh?
There was some. I'm trying to remember. I think there was no knishes.
No.
But yeah, there was some things, and you could probably sodas and stuff like that.
Okay.
But backstage was you just you were nervous, of course, and then you stood behind that curtain, and once it's like you're up next, and you're standing there, and I always say this is whether it's a club or on TV, once they say your name, you have two choices, either to walk out onto the stage or turn around and run away. And I chose to walk out there.
Right.
You know,
and
you
once
play,
once you tell that first joke, you're zenning it from there. It's not like you lose the nervousness. Am I correct?
Yeah. I think it's like sports, like football. That first hit, once you get that first joke. Now, one of my appearances, I tried something very different. Never should have tried it, and it got nothing. I mean, zero. And I passed away right there. I just talk about dying. No, somehow I got past it, but it was like, what the hell? What did I try that for on television?
On the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Just working out, Johnny. I'm just trying some stuff.
Yeah,
well, you know,
exactly.
Ralph, Michael also did the warm-ups for one of the best sitcoms going on TV too at that time.
Which one?
Michael?
No,
Cotter?
I knew that.
Yeah, Welcome Back, Cotter. Yeah.
Oh, one of my all-time favorites. Gabe Kaplan had to be that show, and the dynamics between Gabe and the woman who played his wife, and
Marcia Strasser, I think.
Yeah, she was married to
Strassman.
Right.
Strassman, yeah.
Which reminds me of, you said Strassman, and that reminds me of a story, and this has nothing to do with comedy, but it does have to do with change in the changing world we live in. There was a woman that was in a community that I belonged to, a community of friends. She was such a feminist. Her name was, and I won't even say her name, but I'll make it up, Joanman, right? Her last name. She was such a feminist that her friends changed her name to Joan Person. But Strassman reminded me of Strass Person in today's day and age. It would be politically correct. But she was so low-keyed, and she'd look at him, and he'd say, did I ever tell you about my uncle? And he was very, very good show, and Horshack and those guys.
Oh, that's right. That's how he always ended the show with a joke. That's right. Right.
And did you become friendly with him? He's a very interesting guy. I know he's a professional
he is an interesting guy.
I was somewhat friendly with him, but I had known him before.
At the Improv, or?
Yeah. And Catch a Rising Star.
Right.
And I may have told you guys this story. One time at Catch a Rising Star, he came over to me, and there were two Playboy, bunnies who were in the room. And I knew them a little because I had done the New York Playboy Club. And he said, come on, we're all going to go out together. And this was like, 1, 2 in the morning. And we stopped at a deli, and he bought all kinds of food. Now, it was pretty obvious what his intention was once we got back to one of the girls' apartments, and it wasn't to play, volleyball. And as we're sitting there, one of the girls says, I just bought this very funny album, comedy album, and it was called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About the Godfather, But Don't Ask. You could still look it up probably on the internet. and it was a satire of the Godfather movie. And I had been turns out I had been one of the writers on it. So these girls said, "Oh, you have to listen to the album." And of course Gabe says, "Oh, we could do that another time." And they, No. So we listened to the entire album, and then the girl said, "Well, good night." He was so pissed. Oh, was he angry at me? I said, "It's not my fault that they wanted to listen to it. I mean, he had bought food and everything." But doing the warm-up was interesting because it wasn't long before Travolta, of course, became a heartthrob. When you had to introduce everybody, I would introduce each actor. And Kaplan was the last one, but Travolta got so much, even more applause than Gabe. But there was nothing I could do about it. But you could tell I will say they were all so nice, except Ron Palillo, what the hell was his name?
Horshack?
Horshack. It wasn't that he wasn't nice, but the others were just, it wasn't as friendly as the other guys. They were all really, really friendly and nice and supportive.
With each other as well, or just with you?
I don't know with each other, but they were always very nice to me. I remember one time pulling into a Save-On parking lot. When I say save, a big parking lot. And Robert Hedges got out of his car, come over, talked to me for 45 minutes. They were just really, really good people.
Good.
Really good people.
Good memories. How about the writers for the show?
For Cotter, I never actually I wrote a spec episode. I did, but nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Well, so you take a shot.
The writers, everybody was friendly. Everybody was and this one guy, again, I think I told you this story, and I didn't remember it, that one time doing the warm-up, and I was asked to introduce a comedian who had stopped by or came by to see the episode, and I brought him on stage, not on stage, in front of the audience, and it was Groucho Marx.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard.
That was quite a thrill.
I'll bet. Yeah.
I can imagine. Wow. Holy Toledo. Yeah,
but I bet he didn't really act like Groucho on You Bet Your Life.
No.
Yeah. No. Did he speak to the audience or just to you?
A little bit, but not a lot. Not a lot.
Good.
I have a friend who wrote a book who was such a fan that when he was in college, he wound up working for Groucho Marx at his home as is there a word archivist? Or is that an animal?
Right.
Archive.
Save his stuff. Yeah.
So he's written a book, and he hopes that it'll be a movie, but he worked there about 3 or 4 years, and he met everybody, so to speak, because they would come over to Groucho's house. So
did you guys ever read a book by Groucho called Letters from Groucho?
Oh, yeah.
That was, of all the books that I've read about Groucho or by, that was just terrific. That was
very fun.
Incredibly dry. Just imagine his career going back to vaudeville and the movies and what have you, and he lived well into the 60s, 1960s. Dick Cavett.
Oh, yeah.
Great stuff with him. And I'm sure it's on YouTube. I haven't checked it out.
Dick Cavett? Yeah.
Yeah. Cavett.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. You can see some of those. Yeah. Yeah, Cavett loved him. Loved him.
He did. And I remember the time he made a comeback in the 70s, I guess, when he went to Carnegie Hall. And he just brought a whole new generation into Groucho's corner. In other words, yeah, we forget from generation to generation. Forget about Bill Pearl. We forget about Show of Shows. All these things. I'm glad we have this opportunity to remind people too, and to keep the memories alive in our own heads, which is probably more important than anything else.
Yes, the memories, and it keeps our minds alert.
Oh,
sure.
Absolutely.
That's not that we're that old. Every time I go to the Jewish home, I'm reminded that, well, I'm not young, but when these people are in their 90s, so if I stay for lunch, I'm always at the children's table. but
I thought you were going to say that every time you went there, they handed you an application.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first time when I told my son, I said, I'm going to be at the Jewish home, he said, don't stay there. Yeah. Of course, I do. I look around and I go, oh, I better be careful.
I got to
leave after an hour and a half. These people aren't leaving.
I got a story to tell. I'm in the Air Force, and my grandfather, shortly after the Air Force, I stay out in California. My grandfather passes away. You go back east, and we had to put my grandmother in a home. I mean, you couldn't take care of her. She was alone. And I get there and to visit, and sitting around with a whole bunch of old, elderly people, many with accents, and one woman says, how do you like my wheelchair? So I said, oh, what a wheelchair. You know, it's very nice. I like the way it matches your thing. She goes, don't be a smartass. How do you lock it? That's what I'm not here for good. I'm just rehabilitating. I'm going to be
That's a funny story.
That's a great story, yeah.
That's a true story. Honest to God. How do you like my wheelchair? Oh, beautiful.
You know, sadly, that whole accent is dying because you don't find many elderly Jews that have that East European accent anymore. So it's something that's passing out, you know, not out of favor, but just passing into history.
Right.
You're so right, Jeff. You know, that story reminds me of the story where the guy goes to, he's going to go into a swimming pool, and there's an older man standing there. And so he says to the old man, how's the water? And he says, lukewarm. He says, oh, okay. And he jumps in. And he jumps out and he's shaking. He says, what's the matter with you? You said it was lukewarm. He said, lukewarm to me. So this is the same thing with how do you lock it?
Right.
So the accent you're talking about, David. You're right.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. It's lukewarm to me.
I think I think I've mentioned in the past here that growing up, and Mike, you probably had the same reaction. Older people who had that accent, I could not believe that any elderly person did not have that accent. I couldn't imagine. I mean, it was so. so endemic to the neighborhoods. I'm thinking there's old farmers' wives out in Iowa, and as they get older, they start to talk with the Yiddish accent. You can't figure out why.
I had that same thought, and I mentioned it in my act, that one day you get to be 40, they say, how are you? I said, well, I feel good, but I'm starting to talk with an accent. Because everybody, when we were kids, everybody who was adults, they all, not everybody, but most, had that accent. Great stories.
I always thought when you would get on the telephone, by a certain age, you suddenly spoke Jewish, like it was a magic telephone. Because my mother would call my Aunt Jeanette, and she'd go, hello, and the next thing I know, she's talking Yiddish. So I tried it on the phone. It didn't work.
All right, guys. This has been
What's that?
I was going to say the sense of humor that the people had is just the most wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It was a sense, it just always ended in an irony. The punchline was always something to think about. It just wasn't a funny. It was funny with some thought behind it. That's how I remember humor when I was a kid. So I'll ask you both, which comedy albums did you listen to? I think we mentioned Carl Reiner and the 1,000-Year-Old Man. Besides that, which comedy albums, start with you, David?
Well, the one I remember quite early on was the Vaughn Meader album of the Kennedy family.
Yes.
And of course, his career died November 22nd, 1963, too, because you never heard from the guy again. I mean, talk about a one-trick pony. that was his act. It was being Kennedy. So, and of course then...
The two lives ended that day.
Yeah.
Kennedy and Vaughn Meader.
That's right. And the other one I used to listen, I like listening to some of the old, what's his name? Come on. He went to trial,
Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce, yeah. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. A friend of mine who's an author, and in fact, we had him on the show, Stan Cohn. Stan Cohn was quite friendly with the attorney in the Lenny Bruce case, and Stan wanted to do write a film based on Lenny Bruce's life. And he brought me in. The two of us were going to write this thing, and actually, Mike, at the time, Robert Klein was about the right age, and Klein jumped at the chance. He said, "This is a great idea. I'd love to do it." I got him on the phone. I forget how I did, but I did. Anyway, the big hang-up was Lenny Bruce's ex-wife, because she was nuts. And I forget what her name was.
That's unique.
Unique?
An ex-wife who's nuts? Who's young?
But she kept throwing these roadblocks in front of we'd get so and so lined up, and they couldn't. So it never came to fruition. But I did always enjoyed the Lenny Bruce albums. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Boy,
yes.
That's interesting.
And Carlin, I don't know how much Carlin affected you guys. Did you think he was a genius, or did you think he was not?
Yeah, I did, and my son just thinks he's the greatest. We went to the Kennedy Center Honors. No, it wasn't the Kennedy Center Honors. It was the whatchamacallit, the other one for Mark Twain Awards. Mark Twain Award, yeah. And he had died fairly recently, but they went ahead and had the ceremony. The place was packed, and there was a whole line of comics coming out one after another to tell stories. about George Carlin. And, here's an audience, all adults, right? And so they play Carlin's famous monologue about the 7 words you can't say on the radio, and they bleeped them out. They did. And I say, what in the world are these people thinking? They bleeped.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Oh,
that's
God.
ridiculous.
1 step forward, 2 steps backwards.
Yeah, that's what. Oh, wow, that is funny.
I can see that, they were going to televise it later on. They were taping it and everything. And I could see if they wanted to bleep them out when they televised it. But in an audience.
But not in person.
Not in person, yeah, right. I'll never forget that one.
Crazy.
But he was great.
Colin was brilliant. It's somebody who does stand up and you watch him. I mean, the amount of stuff was just
how prolific he was over a career. The books full, great stuff. He the best ever, I thought. With all due respect to you, Michael.
That's okay. I think somebody who's overlooked and somehow will always be overlooked for whatever reason was my good friend David Brenner.
Yes.
Who
yes.
Had 154 appearances on The Tonight Show. That includes co-hosting. But think about that.
We could do an entire show on him. He was as influential as anybody, a comedian's comedian. And tragically, a big part of his career was lost in a custody battle.
Yes.
We might have touched on that.
I think we did.
Previous show. And tell me something about David Brenner that we may not know as outsiders.
He had more. He was what do they call it? A chick magnet. He had every time you would see him, he was always with a beautiful woman, always, and I mean gorgeous. Some of them for years, some for just a night or so. He also, I think I mentioned, he was very supportive, very loyal, and he loved to do pranks. We went into a store. He loved pranks. One time we were walking, and there's a few stories. One time we were walking on a Sunday morning, and we're in Manhattan, and I hope you get this reference, but there was a guy selling the Sunday Times on the corner. He was a midget. So I'm paying the guy, and as I'm paying him, and as he's giving me the paper, David leans over to me and says, "Tell him you loved him in Ship of Fools." You get that reference?
I do. That was a terrific movie.
Yeah.
With,
Michael Dunn, the midget.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He was what's his name? The one from.
And as he said it, the whole Sunday Times just flew out of my hands because his timing was perfect. Another time, this was, I'm pretty sure we talked about it. We were in Rodney Dangerfield's dressing room. I didn't know him, but David knew him well. And this isn't so funny. All of a sudden, David shoved something in my nose. I said, "What are you doing?" I thought that's a little creepy. A guy shoved something in your nose. But it was some kind of drug thing. And
you weren't aware.
Gone. No. All of a sudden, I'm hanging on to the hook in the dressing room and was told there is no hook in the dressing room. I was just gone. And he's laughing and everybody's laughing and I'm like on another planet. So I made him take me home. I said, you did this to me. I'm not going home alone. And he came up to my he knew he got a cab and he took me home.
He took care of you.
The other story, yeah, he took care of me. But he was always I know I've told you, thanks to him I got to see Europe a little bit. Because he rented
I didn't know that. You didn't tell us that.
No.
Oh, he rented one summer. I mean, he made a lot of money. And he rented a villa in Spain. And I was married at the time, and he invited myself and my wife to spend a week there on him.
Wow.
And so I decided, well, I had never been to Europe, so we went to London first. And that's where I met Michael. Oh, that's another story. Anyway, London was great, and then we went to Paris, and then we went to Marbella, Spain. And it was great. There was a number of guests, David and his then girlfriend who became his wife, who became his ex-wife, but is the mother of two of his 3 sons. Beautiful woman. And we just had a great time. We'd be served, I mean, imagine, servants and dinner.
Well, that's how the rich and famous live. We don't even think about that from, moment to moment. You're pampered when you get to that stage.
Oh, yeah, that was as close as I've come to that. I've had some friends.
Did it change him appreciably as a person? Sometimes money changes people.
Well, it didn't change him with me. Maybe towards other people, and maybe he acted very, I don't know, snobbish is the wrong word, or entitled, but not with me. But again, we knew each other from the beginning of our careers, so it's not like, no, he never changed with me. If I ever called him, he would call back immediately.
Right.
So I've been lucky that way.
Did you guys play gigs in Europe as well? Was this a working vacation?
No. Just a vacation.
Wow.
And I remember we went into Marbella one night at like 1 in the morning, 1:30. And I thought, well, why are we going anywhere at 1:30? It's going to be empty. It was it was like New Year's Eve. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Because they sleep during the day. And this was a tourist town. So I love crowds. So I still remember this as being it was just exciting. It was wonderful, especially compared to Sherman Oaks.
Yeah. But not compared to the Bronx.
No, we were out at all hours of the day and night. Yeah.
Yes. New York. What do they say about New York? The city that never sleeps.
Never sleeps.
That is
right.
really true.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get a good paella up in the Bronx, though.
No.
Yeah.
Boy, now everything is. It's all Mexican and Spanish type.
Sure.
Yesterday I had a chopped liver sandwich. Oh, it was so good. So good. Really good rye
what brings
bread.
back the Bronx for you in Sherman Oaks? Is there a community of ex-New Yorkers who you hang with?
No.
Okay.
No, as a matter of fact, no. But often when I'll do a gig, people come up, oh, what part of New York or what part of the Bronx? And there's New Yorkers obviously all over the place. All over the place. So it's not a group that I hang out with, no.
Okay.
Steve Landesberg was the only one who
may he rest in peace too.
May he rest in peace is right.
He was Barney Miller. Who'd have thunk that Fish would have outlived Steve Landesberg? Which really puts us in touch with all of us with our mortality.
Yeah.
We just don't know when it's coming, and we are so blessed to have, every day to get up with our seichel.
Yeah. You're very, very right. You're very right. Yeah, Steve was as sweet a man as there could be. He was. I still miss
another guy.
He
played in that sitcom with Barney Miller, but he got his start. He was basically a stand-up as well, and very dry on stage. Very.
Steve.
Steve, yes.
Yeah. But boy, he when he was on with Carson, he just killed Carson. Carson absolutely loved him.
Yeah.
So we'd have those few minutes where you go into a character, and he just killed Carson.
All right, guys. This has been terrific as usual. David, anything you want to close with?
No, I'm just intrigued by all of this. It's been wonderful listening.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I hope I didn't mean to dominate.
No.
No, this was very, very intentional, Michael.
Ralph and I planned it this way.
Please do not be sorry.
No.
As a matter of fact, I want to reiterate that David and I talked about this and how much we respect someone who can get on Carson. That's wow. Let's not short shift that. Anybody listening, professional comedian in every way. Michael not Pomerantz Preminger, and David Hubler. If there's a Michael Pomerantz out there, I don't know where I got your name in my head, but it's there.
Give us a call. We'll put you on.
That's what I'm saying. Let's find this guy.
We can't start. Did I say Pomerantz? Let's start it again for the 12th time. Couldn't do that today. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
This is very, very cool, as usual.
Okay, take care. Good talking again.
We'll see you next week, same time, same bat station. Adios, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Sei gesund. Adios.